Hey everyone, Tim Schofield here to review and talk about my experiences with Samsung's latest flagship, the Galaxy S7. My Galaxy S7 Edge review will come very soon, so click that subscribe button so you're notified. But let's get into the Galaxy S7 review. In terms of design, Samsung went with a similar build to the Galaxy S6, which I'm totally okay with because I love the build quality and design of the S6. However, there are a couple different changes. One of the main differences is that curve on the back of the device, which makes it easier to hold and easier to pick up off the table, similar to that of the Galaxy Note. Also, you'll notice that the camera bump is reduced as well, which is a nice addition because it just doesn't protrude nearly as much. Now, the back itself is extremely reflective and a fingerprint magnet to show that off. Here's the S7 Edge, which has the exact same back, and it's kind of gross, in my opinion, just the amount of fingerprints that it shows off and that it collects, which is why I threw this slick wrap skin on it and got rid of all the fingerprint problems. On the sides of the device, you have the volume rockers and the power button. When it comes to placement, I honestly wish the volume buttons were a little bit lower, and I wish the power button was a little bit higher, but that's just a personal opinion. I know other people that like the placement of the button, so that's just a personal thing. However, the buttons are very tactile and give good feedback, and they're easy to differentiate between. There's a good amount of space, and it's easy to tell where the button actually is because it protrudes out of that side. Down at the bottom of the device, you have your headphone jack, you have a micro USB charging slot, which is not Type-C, I believe, because of Gear VR integration, a microphone, and then a speaker. And to be honest, the speaker is probably my least favorite thing about the Galaxy S7 in terms of placement. I'll cover it with my finger, and by no means it's an awful speaker. It's just a very average speaker when it comes to sound quality and just how loud it gets in general. Now, up at the top of the device, you have a microphone, and then you have a SIM card slot. And Samsung is back again with a micro SD card slot, so you can expand your storage, and it only comes in a 32 gigabyte model, I believe, for that specific reason. Up at the top of the device, you have an LED light, you have sensors, front-facing camera, and an earpiece as well. You saw that LED just go off. Moving down to the bottom, you have your home button. It's a physical button, which I don't mind it at all. Then you have a recent apps button right there. It's covered by the slick wraps, but it works just fine behind it. And then you have a back button on the right side right here. Now, overall, I like having the back button on the bottom right. It's different than what is on stock Android, but I have a preference of it being on the right because I use it more. The Galaxy S7 has an IP68 rating, water resistant, so it can be underwater for up to 30 minutes at 1.5 meters. I do have a water test. I'll link to that in the description if you would like to check that video out. Now, also, when it comes to that fingerprint scanner, it is awesome. I mean, it is what you expect. You do have to actually physically press the button or the power button to actually get into it. You can't just set your finger on it. However, it's real easy to just set your finger on it, press the button, leave it on, and it's going to unlock the device. It's very quick, very accurate. Pretty much as long as you have your finger covering most of the fingerprint scanner, it's going to unlock the device. Finally, it does include Quick Charge 2.0 along with wireless charging as well if you set it onto a wireless charger. Now I want to move on to that display, and it's a 5.1 inch 2560 by 1440 Super AMOLED panel, and I'm going to come right out and say it is the best display out there in any smartphone at the moment. It's gorgeous. Honestly, it gets real bright out in bright sunlight. It gets dim. Viewing angles are fantastic, and colors are just, they pop off the display. It's amazing, especially with that Edge display as well. I'll talk about that in my Edge review, but it looks fantastic. Also, something to note of is with that AMOLED display, it comes with always on display, which shows some white with the black. It doesn't actually use battery, however the white pixels will, but it's pretty much only like 2% battery added on, used with that always on display, so I use it all the time. And you can customize what is shown. So you have a clock, calendar, or an image. You have a clock style. There's a bunch of different styles. The one I'm using moves around. I believe all of them might move around the screen, but it's also going to show if you get a missed call, a text message. You can also have a background image added as well, a real light one, so it's not a real subtle one, so it's not going to take up too much battery. Moving along to performance and specs, and the S7 has the latest Snapdragon 820 processor coupled with 4 gigabytes of RAM. And no, I need to throw this out there, it does not have any RAM management issues. It does a great job multitasking, switching between tasks, keeping them in the background, and of course 4 gigabytes of RAM is a lot. In terms of performance, whether you're high-end gaming, whether you're multitasking, whether you're using dual window, it flies through things. It's super powerful. TouchWiz, when doing a couple basic things, might stutter here and there, but I've only had that happen once or twice since I've gotten the Galaxy S7, so in terms of performance, it is a powerhouse. Now, the Galaxy S7 has a 3,000 milliamp hour non-removable battery, and when it comes to battery life, it's pretty good. It's better than the S6, which struggled with battery life. I get an average of about 4 hours screen on time. When it comes down to it, it almost gets me through the day, not quite. 4 hours is still pretty good. I wish it had a little bit more. If you're looking for more battery, you might want to go with the S7 Edge. Let's talk about the 12 megapixel camera on the back of the S7, and no, it is not worse than the S6 camera because it has less megapixels. That does not necessarily mean it's going to be a worse camera. It's actually the best camera I've used on any phone in the market right now. So there's a few ways to get to the camera. On the lock screen, you have a quick shortcut to unlock it there. You also have a double tap of the home button to open it up as well. And then of course you have your standard shortcut to get into it. The camera has dual pixel technology with an f1.7 aperture, and focusing is insanely quick. It is so fast. It's honestly, when I just open up the camera application, I feel like it's already focused on what I'm trying to take a picture of, which makes it super easy to point and shoot at basically anything, in any lighting conditions as well. Pretty standard Samsung camera app with a lot of various features such as a timer, HDR mode, and effect, flash. You can change it to 69 aspect ratio, bumps it down to 9.1 megapixels. Jumping into settings as well, you can change your video size, which you can shoot in 4K. I will do a video camera test. I'm going to Miami pretty soon, and I'll probably make a video test somewhere in Miami or just do a compilation video as well. So let's jump down into mode, where you have a bunch of various ones: panorama, slow motion, food. One I want to talk about is Pro, where you can change so many various things: white balance, ISO, aperture, focus as well. And when you do change the focus, it actually zooms in on the object that you're pointed at, so you can get a much better focus, which is a nice addition. And now you have a multi-autofocus and center autofocus as well option. So overall, I really enjoy using this camera application. It is honestly, like I said, my favorite camera on any smartphone. Just a few examples. Here's a close-up on some leaves and bright sunlight. Just another picture of some far away shots, things in bright sunlight. This was actually in very low light, and it turned out pretty well. When you zoom in a lot, things get a little blurry, which is pretty normal in this low light. It honestly captured a lot more light than I could see with my eye even. Here's a pretty bright situation where it gets a little exposed on the left side, but overall does a good job at controlling the lighting scenario. But like I said, whether in low light, bright light, you get great shots. Let's move on to a big one with the S7, and that would be software, because they had a lot of features. Right now it's on Android 6.0.1 Marshmallow, which is great to see because that would be the latest operating system. However, they have been struggling with their previous flagships to keep them updated in terms of the S6 not being on Marshmallow just yet. A little unfortunate. In terms of the skin Samsung put over Android, it is probably my favorite they've put on yet. I still prefer stock Android. However, this one is not that bad in terms of fluidity and just ease of use. For example, in settings, you can edit some quick settings, which show up at the top here, so it's easy to go into specific ones you use often. Now, pulling down the status bar, you have all your notifications along with some quick toggles which are available right away. I like having them right up there. Brightness toggle as well is nice. You can swipe over to or swipe down again to get to all of them. You can customize how it looks as well with your themes. My favorite one being the Android 6.0 theme. There's a dark one as well. There's just a ton of different themes. Themes icons, themes settings, themes dialers, etc. So real great. The theme store on Samsung does a very good job. Now in terms of the launcher, it's not my favorite. For example, when opening up a folder, it takes up your entire screen, and it's only 3 apps in a row. You'll see I have 3 apps in here and it takes up the entire screen. Also, in terms of the app drawer button, you can't move it around. I wish you kind of could. I do like how you can change the grid size though, so you'll see screen grid. You can change that to your liking. But overall, it's not too big of an issue because you can just install a third-party launcher from the Play Store. With their software brings some multitasking features such as dual window, which you saw earlier in this video. For example, if I go into YouTube, press this icon, press and hold the recent apps icon as well. I can load up 2 apps as one, switch simultaneously between them, flip-flop them, minimize, maximize specific ones. You see if I minimize that one, it will put it into a little bubble, or you can swipe from the corner to go into pop-up window, which can make it a little bit smaller. You can move that around anywhere on the display, and of course it's only a set amount of apps. It's not all of them, unfortunately. Then if you minimize that, you'll see it'll throw up a bubble just like the YouTube one I've got going on right here. And to give you an idea, press and hold that recent apps button. Here's a look at all the apps at the moment that I have supported on there. Instagram's on there, Facebook's on there, but overall a little unfortunate. YouTube's on there, luckily, Twitter as well. And of course, typical Samsung, throwing a bunch of different features on Android that aren't on stock Android. Pop-up view being one that I just showed off. Smart capture in terms of when it happens after you take a screenshot. Palm swipe to capture, which I never use. direct call when you're on a contact, put it up to your face, it'll call them. I'll use that occasionally. Smart alert, if you have notifications, it'll quickly vibrate if you have something you've missed. And easy mute as well if you place your hand on the screen or turn the device over, which I pretty much never use either. One nice one is one-handed operation. I do use this. You triple tap the home button and it's going to pop it down. So if you're using it one-handed, you can use it normally, swiping over, just anything, and then you can return to full screen up there, or you can switch over to the left side if you're a lefty as well. So real nice that that's an added feature. Now games, here is what that references. And when you're in a specific game, any particular game, you press this little icon right here and you have a bunch of different options. If you want no alerts, lock, recent, and back keys so you don't accidentally press one, screenshot, minimize game, record, and we can jump into those settings as well. And that's pretty much it. So just kind of give you an idea of, it's a decent feature if you do a lot of gaming on your device. I didn't use it too much. It's nice that you can lock recent and back keys though. That's a nice addition. In terms of software, I do like the direction Samsung's going. They're not there quite yet. Some of the additions they've made is nice. Some of them are just kind of gimmicky. So it's kind of up to the user how much they want to use those specific things. But overall, with all of this power, it flies through the skin. It's really no big deal. You're going to be super happy with performance on this device. Just a couple final thoughts on the Galaxy S7, and it is my favorite device right now. The S7 Edge might actually be a little better. I'll talk about that in my review just a sec, but honestly, you cannot go wrong with this device. It's a little pricey, so keep that in mind. You're going to pay a little heavy price for this device, but the camera cannot be beat. The only thing I really complain about is battery life could be a little bit better, and that speaker down at the bottom. However, with that added water resistance functionality, the speaker is kind of understandable. But overall, top of the line device right now. LG G5 is going to have to do a lot to top this guy. So hopefully you enjoyed my review video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. You can subscribe to my channel. Lots more to come. You can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Google+. All links in the description of the video below. And as always, guys, thank you very much for watching.